multiple people have sent me this video, and I know it bums people out, but I have a retort to the point that's being made here. So I'm going to try and not make this about Jimmy Dore and his problems, but I'm going to make it against the argument. Why would I not push back against this? One of the most exciting, electric, competent politicians that we have on the left, who more importantly has been organizing, has been creating caucuses before she's even elected, right? Going around and creating solidarity amongst those people in the Democratic Party who are to the left of where the mainstream of the Democratic Party is, and building solidarity, helping people getting elected, promoting, raising money, promoting ideas. Now, I'm not saying that these people are, that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is above criticism. No, we should always critique our politicians, but we should do so based upon the votes and the issues that they promote, and give them space to create power for themselves. And look, if AOC came out and said, let's say in the context of Palestinian rights, like, I don't believe that Palestinians deserve any rights, I would have a problem with that. And I would say that.
And we have been trying to hold her accountable on some of these issues.
Of course.
But like in a nice way.
Well, it's not just in a nice way. It's in a way that is productive, right? Because the whole point is not so that we like her. The whole point is so that we get a government that functions in a way that we want.
She has the power and the base to do what she set out to do.
That's the point of politics. The point of politics is not for all of us to sit here and feel good about who we support or what. It's nice when that happens, but that's not the point of this. That's the point of junior high school. To like have your clique be your clique. So
that's
with that in mind,
subtitle of our show.
Yeah,
have your clique be your clique.
Exactly.
Majority Report.
Here is Jimmy Dore bringing up what is one of the most ridiculous, ill-informed. Play the video.
And I said Cynthia Nixon, who called him a liar on the debate, quit lying. She told him. And now I wonder if she's going to. Is she going to tell the progressives to vote for the Democrats' version of Trump, which is Andrew Cuomo?
Pause it. And so the question is Cynthia Nixon going to tell Democrats to vote for Andrew Cuomo? I don't know if she is. I think she's going to stay on the WFP line, the Working Families Party line, because they need 50,000 votes to make sure that they maintain their line position. But nevertheless, continue.
And like nobody can expect her to do that. But watch this. You think it's even worse than that? You guys ready for this? Watch this.
What I also look forward to moving forward is us rallying behind all Democratic nominees, including the governor, to make sure that he wins in November.
She's a Democrat, so she has to tell everybody that Andrew Cuomo is the answer.
Pause it. In addition to her not telling everybody that Andrew Cuomo is the answer, what she's telling people is that Andrew Cuomo will be better than the Republican.
She endorsed Cynthia Nixon.
Of course. But there's only two choices on the ballot, folks, of anybody who's going to win. It's either the Republican or the Democrat in this governor's race. I don't know if there's a third or fourth party people, but I got news for you. They're not going to win. 1 million Democrats out of the 1.5 that cast votes for governor voted for Andrew Cuomo. She doesn't have to do anything. She will not lose her position. She will not lose her candidacy if she says, and people should not vote for Cuomo. They should vote for the Republican, or they should vote for someone else and split the votes. You know what would happen if she does that? She can do it, but it would cut into her ability to actually do real things for real people. Not people who want to sit around and feel good about themselves, and that's the agenda. Her agenda is not to make people feel good about themselves. Her agenda is to get specific issues passed through Congress so that they are executed and the American people enjoys them. And there is no theory whatsoever, certainly doesn't come from this video, but I challenge anybody to give me a theory that shows how AOC can achieve more progressive change by coming out and saying at this point, in the lead up to the general election, don't vote for the Democrat at the top of the ticket.
Also, she said this in response to a question about it. Like, she's not out there campaigning with him at every step.
I think it's really important to remember that Andrew Cuomo is our savior. He's the greatest politician, arguably, of the 21st
she said
century.
Even Cuomo, right?
Right. Yeah, even Cuomo is amazing. Exactly. Because I'm a Democrat now.
All right, just play it back and then listen to more.
Nominees, including the governor, to make sure that he wins in November.
Yes, including the governor.
She's a Democrat, so she has to tell everybody that Andrew Cuomo is the answer. Do you see what the problem is with progressives trying to take over the Democratic Party? Do you see the problem?
Yes, I see one of the problems, that they are given no room to do even platitudes, to do even the most basic hitting and bunting in terms of building their own political base. Like making an enemy, a public enemy of Andrew Cuomo helps progressives get Medicare for all. How? Making an enemy of Andrew Cuomo, this is after she already endorsed Cynthia Nixon in the primary. But going out and saying you prefer a Republican to win than a a Democrat. Now, there's two options. One, she has no ability to make that happen. Or two, she does have an ability to make that happen by coming out, right? If she makes that happen and there's a Republican in the governorship of New York State, how is that helpful to getting any of the proposals that we are hoping for come to fruition?
New Yorkers that don't have health care will wake up.
Any of them.
They'll wake up, Sam.
We're looking at New York now with an opportunity, largely in part because of her, to actually have a Democratic state Senate and a Democratic state assembly. And they need a governor who will sign these things. Andrew Cuomo will not sign them in the way that Cynthia Nixon would have, but he's going to sign them a lot better than a Republican would.
You know what else also really stands out to me about this is let's even indulge in a fantasy scenario that somehow.
All right, well, let me finish my point.
Sorry, go ahead.
So the other thing is that AOC cannot influence the outcome of the election. That she just says, don't vote for Andrew Cuomo, and alienates the 1 million people who voted for Andrew Cuomo in the primary, never mind the other millions. Now, no one has talked about what a bigger crap stain Andrew Cuomo is in New York State over the past 7 years than I have. I challenge anybody who is not active in New York politics, who doesn't do that, like on any medium, who has maligned Andrew Cuomo with very good reason, more than I. But the fact of the matter is, he's better than a Republican. Even the Republicans understand this dynamic. We just need someone to sign it, to sign the legislation, particularly now. And the idea that she has no ability to influence the outcome, it's all signaling. That's what is wanted here. Billy said that Jenny's one of the cool kids, and she's not. So now I don't like Billy.
Exactly.
Well, I'm looking at the Nixon Cuomo results, and Brooklyn went for Cuomo. So, like, her constituents, a lot of them voted for Cuomo. So if she starts going on just bomb throwing, like,
but what's the value of it? Like,
well, that's
what?
another thing that always
like,
misses in this analysis is actually that, and sometimes you see it with some people who follow characters like this on social media. They do start to attack essentially the Democratic base, because the thing that is inconvenient for this analysis is a lot of normal, regular, everyday Democratic voters who are going to need to be your allies, even in your greatest fantasy scenario of a third party, vote for people like Andrew Cuomo. And to basically just say that they're all just sheep or morons, or their perspective should be dismissed, is actually a much more toxic subtext. Because even on a level, like, whatever, take your whack at AOC, sure, maybe you're upset at her for whatever, but the larger message of, well, it's obviously all these mouth-breathing idiots that voted for Cuomo or are excited about Andrew Gillum. What are you saying about whole swaths of people you need to engage with and respect? It's pretty disgusting.
It's vote shaming from another angle.
Well, it's who is. I mean, well, look, I don't think there's anything wrong with vote shaming. The issue is what is going to empower this politician who has an agenda that you subscribe to? What is going to empower her? If Andrew Cuomo runs for president, is it going to be more powerful that she said, I voted for him as governor over a Republican, but he should not be our nominee, than vice versa? I mean, these are all basic. These are just like basic, rudimentary. This is about power. This is about how you get what, you fulfill agendas, not about, I don't like you because you said a nice thing about something. It's not even saying a nice thing about it. It's saying, I think a Democrat is better than a Republican. And if someone wants to debate that, I'll have a debate with anybody on the left about that. And I will debate anybody who articulates a perspective that's different from that. But continue with
That is more.
Oh, yeah.
A, it's never going to happen. And B, they get co-opted.
She's co-opted.
I don't know. Am I making too much out of this stuff?
Yes.
That was hard to listen to. I mean, that 10 seconds was hard to hear. It really was.
Really? You couldn't just wait a month? You couldn't wait until maybe November 1st?
All right, pause it. Now, let me explain why you wouldn't wait till November 10th to do this. Because if you're going to do it, you do it at a time. Well, first of all, she was probably asked the question, but you're going to do it at a time where it doesn't make you look like you're a Johnny-come-lately. You just do it because that's where one of the sources of your power comes from, the Democratic Party. And she's trying to leverage that power to do good things. So if you're going to do it, you do it early. Because if you're going to do it, you know you're going to do it, you do it early. And the idea that AOC can leverage anything from Andrew Cuomo at this point is moronic.
Support behind this guy.
Why? What's the difference? What's the difference? What's the difference? Well, no, I'm asking you.
Well, for me, it's like, why do people have to keep endorsing these Democrats that are corporate tools? Why does she have to hurry up?
I'm asking what's the difference between now and November 1st?
Well, I was hoping that she would push him without giving
Yeah,
support.
so this is exactly right, Steph. She got nothing for this. Like Cynthia Nixon, like some people were saying, well, maybe Cynthia Nixon will get Andrew Cuomo to admit or to agree to sign on a single payer if it gets passed, and then she'll endorse him. Or maybe she'll get something and then nothing. They got nothing from Andrew Cuomo. Nothing.
Okay. Trying to get in the general election for AOC, trying to get something from Andrew Cuomo at this point would be like pushing a rope.
What are we here to talk about today?
We are here to talk about sunscreen, specifically U.S. sunscreen, and how to fix it. Hello, everyone. This is Rep AOC, and I'm here with Charlotte Palomino.
I'm a brand owner, but also a licensed esthetician. U.S. sunscreen regulations are not necessarily making us more safe or better products.
U.S. sunscreens are far behind the rest of the world. I was in South Korea earlier this year, and it is so clear how far advanced the rest of the world is on sunscreen, and we deserve better here in the US.
How does the FDA regulate?
FDA is different than the rest of the world in that we regulate sunscreen as a drug instead of a cosmetic. It's regulated as a drug, has far more stringent standards, far more testing, far more scientific and clinical trials that are required, which is good. We want to make sure that things are safe. However, sometimes that can add a lot of bureaucratic and costs that prevent us from getting any sunscreen filters at all.
And just for context, it has been since 1999. It was the last time that we had a new sunscreen filter in the United States.
When we compare the US standards to European standards in 2017, a Sloan Kettering study found that only half of US sunscreens met European protection standards. Here's the thing though, there is something that we can do about this. Congress has not been very aware of this issue, which is why there hasn't been a lot of momentum behind this issue. Truly, it's not too corny. Please contact your member of Congress, especially if your member of Congress sits on the Energy and Commerce Committee. They have jurisdiction over the FDA. However, any member of Congress can develop attention and draw attention to this issue. Ask them to break through some of the regulatory barriers at the FDA and fund public research so that we can all enjoy the filters that develop out of the scientific process.
Just need to make some noise about it.
Totally. I mean, I love Korean sunscreens, but I want to buy this in the US. Why do we need to import them from all over the place?
I'm joined today by one of my special guest hosts or co-hosts, Michelle. How you doing, Michelle?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for having me and for extending the invite. Other than talking about AOC makes my stomach churn, but yeah, we're good.
So I thought with the topics, what I did differently, or I'm starting to do different, is I go to the topics and then I go, you know what, who would be good to talk about these specific topics? That's why I reached out to you about these specific topics. So maybe that feeling you get about AOC is going to provide for a great discussion. And the reason I wanted to show Michelle, and we had a question actually, or a observation. Somebody said, what's the purpose of us watching this Sam Seder clip? I wanted to show the contrast. I wanted to show what he was saying AOC was and what she was trying to do. And then I wanted to show the most recent video footage we have of AOC, and that is the promotion or the advocacy of opening up the U.S. market to sunscreen, or open up the sunscreen market in the U.S. So I thought it was the clearest way to illustrate there is no way to sort of defend what she's doing at this point. Like
right.
Before, you saw this more often, Michelle, where people were like what Sam did here, where, you know, he just kind of saying, and another reason I picked this video is because it aged very badly. And we know what happened with Andrew Cuomo and they're advocating for her to endorse Andrew Cuomo. But what say you as far as the difference in what they're saying in the sort of the pre-live video versus this intro video we had of AOC promoting the sunscreen? What do you see?
Well, the first question I have is, did she recently invest in a sunscreen company that she wants to advance her product? Be a beauty industry thing, you know, which is where I tend to go with a lot of electeds these days, because they get into office not really necessarily, in my experience, to support us, even though sometimes we benefit from that. However, they get into office to make their mark and to make their name.
Right.
And then they age there for years and years and years, majorly disconnected from us and what we want and what we need. You know, even the regulatory process is kind of like, and who's greasing that wheel, you know, because it's often the bigger business, the bigger industry, corporation doing all of that. But I had problems with AOC when she was elected, because I was already on my radical bend of, you know,
oh, right on.
Are horrible. And I had interns where I was working that would come in all googly eyes about AOC. And I'm like going, okay, so what good has she done? What good does she really plan to do? And how is it not being controlled by the Democratic Party to start with?
Those are all great questions that I think if we haven't gotten the answers that we have gotten to those questions have not fared well for the squad or AOC or progressive or elected progressives or their defenders into bringing up or speaking to what Sam was talking about. He's basically was trying to defend her as she's strategizing. She's trying to strategize in order to gain power to do what exactly, I'm not sure, but that is what they say. And I would just, I would like to know, that was a few years ago, I think, that video. We can now say, okay, Sam, you said that then. Now we've seen 2 years go by and we've seen the breaking of a rail strike. I would say that's one of the bigger things they did, voting of all the packages to Ukraine. The protests we've seen of her. I mean, we've just seen just thing after thing or scenario after scenario surrounding her. And it has not been a positive. So it feels like this is one of the final nails in the coffin of like the complete collapse of the idea of AOC. Because if you think about what the idea of AOC, she supposedly represented the different progressive Democrat, the one that was going to fight hard and tooth and nail, fighting even against their own Democratic leadership. That was the whole idea that was everybody sold on. Why Nick from RBN, one of the RBN brother Nick, was even volunteering. He quit his job and volunteered for a campaign like this with the Bernie Sanders campaign. So, but you go from that to go to some of the things, it's just a complete sort of fall. And had you ever been a believer in AOC at any point? So let's go back to when she, was on the Glenn Greenwald show and saying no about the speaker. I'm not going to vote for the speaker. I'm talking about, so nothing has happened after that. We just know this about her.
It goes further back than that for me. When she was running for office, it was like, oh, this is a breath of fresh air, right? And that was when I may have had a glimmer of hope of maybe, and I also had a glimmer of hope about DSA or, the Democratic Socialists and all of this other stuff. But
anything new that could be something good, you obviously would have an initial reaction of, I hope, you're hoping that it's good. The People's Party had the same reaction where it was like, I hope this is it. But, but go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. Even with like the Green Party, there are struggles within the Green Party that actually go back to the structural variables that we all deal with in the US government. This government was founded, this country was founded with some very problematic and oppressive forces in play. Ownership was prioritized, expertise is prioritized. And then, with AOC, we get into this thing of comfort. And I think comfort is one of the largest disconnects that happen because we don't realize when we're comfortable what we're not seeing in society. So I've likened it recently to a rubber band. It's like you can be pushing for change, but if you still have a house to go home to, if you have food regularly on your table, if you don't have to worry about where your next meal or rent payment is coming from, you rubber band back to this place of absolute, you don't have to see all that stuff. And that the longer you stay in the space of I don't have to see the oppressions that are happening, the more disconnected you become from that experience of the oppression. Which is why, I advocate a lot for those most impacted and most at risk have to be leading the charge. But I've grappled with this recently too, of how do you become a part of the system without incorporating the system into your belief structure just because of that comfort alone, of not realizing that you're eating a steady diet of progressive, this is good. We fight for the workers. No, you're not. you know, and until people stop seeing these structural, you know, when you stop seeing the oppression that's happening is, I think, the point where you have to kind of remember, no, this is, the struggle is real, and we have to remember that struggle. If you're gaining resource and power, no matter what you give to charity, charity doesn't help people. Charity just funds the charity movement. So I'm a
Right.
little cynical about all of this these days, which may be good, maybe not good. But, you know, different groups organize, even you guys organize in a container that is, I mean, we live 24/7 in capitalism, American
Right.
imperialism, white supremacy, culture, you know, all of these other things. We have to use the tools of the devil, of the oppressor, in order to get ahead. So how do we also stay grounded, though? And I see you guys doing this with your mutual aid efforts, with giving back to the community, that you're still staying embedded and rooted in those communities. And as soon as you unroot yourself from those communities, you're an unchecked oppressor in many ways. No matter how good your intentions are in your heart, you're going to steer yourself and everything else in a direction that just isn't going to be helpful to everybody, to those most impacted and most at risk.
I think that's a very good point. And I think that's what sets RBN apart, that we try to stay connected to the community as to remain focused, because it's easy to lose focus if you're not unhoused, for example. If it's easy to lose that focus about that. It's easy if you're not immersed in it, like as you were speaking to earlier. I don't know how to do it, but let me bring the video back up here. And the reason I want to do that is because it's not necessarily the sunscreen. You notice the critique, and I'm going to show a couple of tweets. The critique, no one's saying sunscreen is the problem, that you promoting the actual product is the problem. We are saying, or the critique is, you have time to do this when you're lacking in so much of the other areas where you actually have been elected to do a job. You're lacking so much in that area, but you're doing this. So it seems like an unfocused person. It seems like if a person is a firefighter, and they're constantly missing when it's time to go fight a fire, but you know, I don't know, they're down the street trying to sell, you know, foot insole pads so you can walk comfortably. Like, you know what I mean? Like, is that going to help somebody? Yes, I guess. I mean, that'll help somebody that needs that. But is that what we want a firefighter doing? Is that what a firefighter is supposed to be doing?
And it
it'll
also
be fine if you were not absent at the fires. You know what I mean? But you're absent at the fires, AOC. You're absent at the fight. So go ahead, Michelle.
I was going to bring up too, it also still avoids the root cause of skin cancer, which is our diets in the United States.
Yeah.
No matter how much gunk we put on our body, when we're not able to feed ourselves in a way that is chemical free and whole foods, you know, we are set up to have skin cancer. There were studies done on this, and I don't have access to it right now, but this is a money-making scheme. This is a booming industry that she's supporting, not to improve anything really, because, you know, I don't see that industry being able to improve much, when her focus shouldn't be on the money-making and the cosmetic element of things, but rather on ensuring everybody has healthy food to fight off the cancers of our body that are coming because our diet, you know, most of our foods in the United States don't meet the qualifications in other countries either. You know, if you compare an ingredient list of McDonald's in the United States to even McDonald's in the UK, McDonald's in the UK has mostly whole foods in what they're putting forward, where we have soy and other meat additives and fake stuff and everything else. So sunscreen alone is
Yeah.
not really the focal point. And the fact that she's focusing on that focal point makes everything go sideways.
Yeah, and I think and this is to the point you were making earlier, it's a focus on that point because there must be some sort of profit motive somewhere. There has to be in my mind, it has to be some sort of profit motive somewhere. And I don't know, it just it doesn't I don't know, it just doesn't, it's not a good look to me for a progressive lawmaker, to me. Not when so much hasn't been accomplished, not when so much of the plan of the progressive policy has not been realized. To me, it's just not a good look for all those reasons. The same reasons, a lot of the reasons we said about the Met Gala when she attended the Met Gala. I'm just gonna pop up a couple of headlines. We can talk as the headlines are up though. But the same sort of thing when it how do I get this down? We've updated our terms. Continue. Okay, there goes one here. Ooh, already got ad blocked. Ad blocked. But you can see it at the top there. U.S. sunscreen is stuck in the 90s. Is this a good job? It was a picture of AOC, but I'll bring up some other ones where I'm not ad blocked here, and then I'll read one of them, just a couple snippets before we close this initial oops, which one am I looking for? This one is Yahoo, so it should be good. This initial segment. This one says AOC slams the FDA's harmful overregulation of sunscreen. So here's where she's being used, whether knowingly or unknowingly, by the capitalist class who doesn't want regulation on anything, and they're using this to take advantage to say, see, there's a progressive also who doesn't want all this crazy regulation on things, you see. So she's even being allowed or being used in this way, as you can see here in this headline. So that's just another sort of unintended consequence, I guess. And this one is Allure magazine, which is a more of I think it's beauty. I think it would be labeled beauty magazine, Allure. Yeah. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez thinks you deserve better sunscreen. And then it just goes into, it's just one of them things like, it's like, I mean, it's not crazy a big of a deal, but it is just another opportunity to point out priorities, like priorities basically. So let me read a little bit of, I do want to go back and read some of the Yahoo one because of the way they describe it. I want to see what their perspectives. And this one's this is written by Robbie Suave from The Hill. Oh, I didn't even notice that when I got it. So if you see here, Robbie, this is from The Hill, Robbie, I'm sorry. Credit where credit is due. AOC, and I'll just, abbreviate her name. AOC may be a self-described democratic socialist, but when it comes to Food and Drug Administration's overregulation of sunscreen, a non-trivial issue, she sounds a lot like a libertarian. He's saying this is a non-trivial. That means this is an important issue, but I'm curious why he uses that. So isn't that what that means? Non-trivial means it is important.
Yeah, it's and I think that some of this comes from whether you're focusing on the sunscreen or the FDA quote unquote overregulation of,
right,
which again, you're connecting it. And this is where reading comprehension becomes kind of important, because you could read it and go, oh, he's saying this is an important issue. But no, what he's saying is not necessarily the sunscreen, but the overregulation is the non-trivial issue.
Right, right. Which is what I was trying to say,
Get
which
to.
you said a lot better. Yeah, you said a lot better. So thank you for thank you for that. So great. Where was I here? Oh, right here. In a recent TikTok video, and I'm assuming it's the one we just watched, AOC interviewed esthetician. I always say that kind of weird. Esthetician Charlotte Parlamino about the abysmal limited sunscreen options in the United States. Quote, U.S. sunscreen regulations are not necessarily making us more safer, explains Parlamino, and AOC agrees. U.S. sunscreens are far behind the rest of the world, and our regulations aren't necessarily making our sunscreens better or safer, but it doesn't have to be this way. And then there's a picture. They're going to show the video we had here in a second here. And this is Rep AOC. AOC is calling out a very real problem. Sunscreen is regulated like a drug, which means the product is subject to I don't know what that means.
Byzantine.
Byzantine. Do you know what that is?
Yeah. It's I think it that's an era, but I'm not 100% sure. It's a really odd word to use, you know.
Okay. I'll look it up in the background, everybody, and I'll bring it up in a second. FDA regulations that have largely thwarted the innovation in the category for the last 20 years. So basically, this could be also true, where yes, this is a sign of AOC literally not being the person we elected her to be. At the same time, this is an issue that could be looked at. Not necessarily the top of priority, maybe not even a top 100. And that also can be true. As the economist Alex Tarbarek has pointed out, European and Asian countries enjoy vastly superior options. And here's a quote from him. Sunscreens in Europe and Asia are better than in the United States because more ingredients are allowed, and these create more effective and more pleasing sunscreens, end quote. He writes, this is no accident, but rather the deliberate result of regulatory policy. The European Union, that is, for instance, has approved 27 different compounds for use in sunscreens, whereas the FDA has only approved 17, so a difference of 20. And I think we can sort of cut this article here. We don't need to go too far because I do want to give the issue its just due. I mean, if it is a real issue that the FDA changing the way this is regulated in the same way of cannabis, for example, how it's scheduled, and that should be also changed, in my opinion. So I want to give it its just due, but the critique of AOC still stands. Is that she can be doing a whole lot. Like if she has free time like this, she can be doing a whole lot more in the advocacy of Medicare for all, for example. Like, has she held one rally? Has she gathered one call to action call, even not even a physical rally, just say virtual, a call to action call, everybody nationwide, a couple of calls to advocate or to plan for some sort of action for Medicare for all? No. So that's still the critique that I have for this. But any final words on either the overregulation that Robbie, and I think Robbie, and let's point out, Robbie is a libertarian. So he is zeroing in on the overregulation part because he's a libertarian, which is understandable. That's like their number one thing is as far as one of their number one things in critiquing is the overregulation. They want to just live and let live. Typically, libertarians believe that. So he is going after that particular point. But what do you say as a final sort of closing comment to this topic, whatever part you want to comment on.
I think ultimately it's about following the money with this. Why is she endorsing an industry that is expected to grow like by, I think 20% is what I found on a stat. But, this industry is going to expand, and it's already $1 billion industry, and it's going to expand by billions of dollars. So why? And of what purpose? Because I can't connect it to health of the nation, because sunscreen alone is not going to improve the health of all of us. So with that, it's more about her securing her future, her finding her pathway, her becoming I don't know if it's Nancy Pelosi or Dianne Feinstein, that track of replacing that person. And I'm sorry, that person would be something else to kind of put up as an image of the sunscreen need in the industry, because she doesn't look very healthy. Neither one of them, they're both too old and everything else. But it's about looking at the layers and really asking a lot of why. And we just have to continue to ask the whys.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, everybody. I did promise that I would show a couple of tweets. So let's show a couple of tweets of this, because this actually went viral. This is how I even knew about this. Typically on Fridays is when I'm online the least. That's when I try to get a lot of family errands done, because I like to have my Saturdays and Sundays free. So I try to get a bunch of stuff done. So I was doing that yesterday. But I did notice this kept popping up in my feed. So let's go over a couple of responses here. And I'm going to toss them up to show just the reaction. And a lot of them are sarcastic, as you'll see. Here's one from Carl Zah, and Carl Zah has been on a couple of our summits. I know he was on the General Strike. No, Anti-Imperialist Summit. He was on a panel with PJ Vassad, I think. And then he was on our last summit. This last summit, we just had a panel with Shama Sawant. Carl Zah was on there. And he says, "Thank you, AOC, for tackling the most pressing issue facing America." And obviously, Michelle, that's some sarcasm there.
Right, exactly.
Which, I mean, it's funny. It's funny. I mean, this is not something to really go hard at or at as far as your critique. It is good to use sarcasm in this situation. Here is more of a person, a fan of AOC. I thought it would be good to include at least a couple of their comments also. This is Walker Bragman. And if you remember, I believe, no, you know what? I don't want to say that just in case my memory is not correct. Quote, "Leading Democratic Socialist congressman advocates for deregulation," end quote, "is not something I had on my 2023 bingo card." So it's completely something even shocking. I guess I would say to the AOC camp, it's something that's shocking. They didn't, surprising that they didn't know she will be doing also. So that's interesting. And then we have a couple of others. I'll just read more rapidly. This one is from Allie Oop, Medicare for All. "This is so brave. She's really fighting for us now." Jesus freaking Christ. So thank you for that comment. Here's another one, Dirtbag Left One. Holy Shiznit, I'll say it that way. "When I saw this, I thought for sure it was a AOC parody account. Then watching the video, I thought they found a great impressionist or used an AI. Nope. This is real." And I think some other people had the same reaction. Is this your first time hearing about this video during this stream, Michelle?
No, it's not. I had caught glimpses of it. There's an element of disability within this that is just, that worry about the cosmetic while not supporting all these other needs that are underneath it. People with skin cancer, if they're on public benefits, they don't get the best of services. They don't get the highest quality of health care. They don't get the solutions to those problems. And so that's where I saw it was flagged more as a disability issue. So
yeah, and that's a great point to add, and I think a lot of people sort of, I think this comment right here is making that point too. I think that's, let me see if I get that right. Over 600,000 people sleeping on the streets. So to your point, like there's so many other issues that if you have the time for this, that could use your advocacy in this way. Like, when's the last time she's been on with a doctor or a person who lost a loved one, that if they had medical insurance, why isn't she touring the country with victims of our terrible medical system? In this way, we're doing these videos, and she can call it AOC Tours America for healthcare for all. That's a great slogan.
Yep.
But what can you do? Let's continue. Here, this one's from Eric Clapel. I think that's how you say it. Living wage strike 1, healthcare strike 2, climate policy strike 3. Survey says skincare. We get skincare. More sarcasm. And here's one from Ryan Knight. You went from pretending to care about Medicare for all to hawking sunscreen. Same critique we have. And here goes Nick. Nick also thought this was a parody account, or makes the point. Is this a parody account? I thought it was because I saw it without the sound first. So I'm scrolling through my feed and I see. So just imagine you see AOC, and I'm gonna rewind it here so you can see what I saw here in the beginning, and I'll make this big. But I'm gonna turn the sound off. See how I thought this was some sort of joke she was doing when I saw it, because this, just think of the body language you're seeing here, how she gets close to the camera too. So I was like, oh, this must be some sort of funny thing. That's why I didn't even think to even turn the sound on. I was like, oh, I'm not even interested in
that might be a fun
funny
video
little sketch.
It might be a fun video to actually make a parody of for those reasons. How about, we deal with the homeless on the street,
yeah. Somebody watching, please do this. I know somebody watching right now is an editor. STF or Shut the Fuck Up Joe, if you're watching, somebody do something, an edit of this where it's the sound, and you can insert whatever you want. Have her selling whatever you want. It would be great. So if somebody could do that to this video, tag RBN and we will definitely promote it and play it in a couple of our streams. I'll even start it as an intro video if you do that. So that's the challenge to somebody watching this. So that's a great idea. I forgot what I was doing here.
Sorry, I keep kind of throwing you off, I think.
No, that's good though, because that's good. We want to be able to have a natural flow of the conversation here. But anyway, to get back to kind of close out the segment. We were just reading comments. So yeah, so those comments were the more popular ones that I saw, and they happened to be people that I knew. What we were doing, I just remember now, we were looking at what she was doing without the sound, and you see what I mean, how it looks like some sort of like sketch. It doesn't look like she's talking about anything serious, and that's how I initially came upon the video.
Why?
Before I knew that it was a viral video.